Oh, hello, yeah. Well, if you book them, they will come. Yes, I'm sure that'll be true. Put certain words in a title and you're guaranteed to crawl out the woodwork being very, very cross because, well, they're always right. Not like you. Not with your facts and things, no. Facts don't care about my feelings at all, apparently. Anyway, sometimes certain things are sort of distill into one news story and then from that they spill out into other things, which may or may not be an advanced metaphor. Probably not much of one. But this caught my eye in yesterday's Telegraph. Cheap Chinese wind turbines to flood British waters. Beijing's astonishing low costs put European rivals in peril. Yes, dreadful, the idea that the Chinese are going to build very, very cheap stuff. Well, after all, those coal-fired power stations, they're all bad, aren't they? Yes, boo hiss. Why should we do net stupid zero when the Chinese won't? Except, of course, that they are investing very, very, very heavily in going net zero by 2050 in ways that we could have done. Because in the past, you see, I'm one of those evil people with a memory. In the past, I think loads of people suggested that we moved, very ferociously to a net zero economy. And one of the ideas was that the government could, borrow some money and prime that, and it would create lots of green jobs, which we could then utilise mass scale to sell abroad. But it was decided by various very, very sensible business people like Mr. Richard Tice and others, basically the entire right-wing establishment, that was a very, very bad idea. So we didn't do that. And now, well, we just don't have these things, so we have to buy them from abroad, potentially very, very cheaply, potentially at, somehow selling ourselves out to other countries. It reminds me, of course, of those other things which we've let go, very much like Brexit, this idea that we need to have sovereignty, and oddly we seem to have lost it, and the very people that told us that we desperately needed to do that are now telling us that we desperately need to do other things, amongst which are, of course, not invest in, well, green energy. These things come around again. Still, it won't really matter to their personal wealth at all, which is a good thing, after all. Yes. And the same people, of course, that do all of these things, naming only certain names who may or may not be members of Reform, but they might as well be members of either the Labour Party or the Lib Dems or the Tories or, well, most of them really, I'm sure certain Greens as well, will tell us that, we don't really have to worry so much about certain people, but we do have to worry about others. And, on a wider level, these things, these kind of meta narratives in the economy are very much percolating through. You might sort of think about the concentration of wealth and power, because we now have, for example, from a story in the Daily Telegraph, we now have the concentration of wealth and power where the owner of the Daily Mail is likely to own the Telegraph, a man who, well, is so patriotic he doesn't live here. Bit odd that, but never mind, I'm sure we can just ignore that. Yes, concentration of wealth and power. And you might think about the concentration of wealth and power there is with all those tech giants who are very much donating to, Donald Trump's new ballroom, which is very, very, very expensive, suggesting there's a lot more things that are going to be placed underneath it than we might be led to be aware of now. Yes, concentrations of wealth and power, whereby, for example, if you ask Grok just how good looking Elon Musk is, they will tell you at length, because apparently, it's very, very important to have free speech, or at least certain bits of it. Yeah, concentrations of wealth and power in just a few hands. And it goes further and deeper, which various things we're not really being told about, because if you just think about the concentrations of that deadly wealth and power with things like, other sectors of our economy. If you look at what's going on in the American agriculture sector at the moment, what we're finding is that, well, vast numbers of very, very, very big companies are basically buying everything up and forcing actual farmers out of business. Those people that were persuaded yet again to vote for Trump. Yes. And he's now suggesting government subsidies to, well, not so much bail them out as, but basically bail out their banks so they can carry on being serfs to whatever interest payments they're having to make. Concentrations of wealth and power. That's what we need to do. Pay more taxes to be given to people that already have a vast amounts. Yes. concentrations of wealth and power are very, very deadly, aren't they? Unless, of course, it's all those people that agree with us, because, of course, well, we might not really like these concentrations of wealth and power, but we have to just accept that it's the economy, and there's not very little we can do about it. And these people are, after all, wealth creators and job creators, because no one had wealth or jobs before these people came along, so we can only thank them for everything. And if they do decide to, well, basically shut down sectors of the economy they're not really very keen on because it doesn't directly affect them, we shouldn't really worry about it, because I'm sure they have our best interests at heart. And if they're not very keen on us doing anything on behalf of people that are brown, we should also listen to them, of course, because I'm sure that's not a distraction from what's actually going on in terms of the underlying stuff in the economy. And if they've moved on from brown people to, well, other people that are actually not brown but probably are undeserving, like people in wheelchairs or the autistic or just generally poor people, then we perhaps shouldn't worry about that, because after all they'd never come for us, would they? No, probably. And there's plenty of them out there that will cheer these people on because, well, they can't possibly be wrong about things. If you voted for Brexit, you have to just carry on, and you have to just carry on and carry on and carry on, because you couldn't be wrong, could you? You couldn't have been fooled. But you certainly won't be fooled again. I mean, you certainly wouldn't be fooled twice by the same person into voting for exactly the same rubbish that that makes you poorer. I mean, that wouldn't do, because after all, you're not autistic or in a wheelchair or poor or brown or gay or anything else, and they certainly won't come from you. So it's probably best to have a go at people like me that are asking awkward questions. Lots of people earnestly want to believe that they are that character that wouldn't join in with the Nazi salute. And unfortunately, they're very wrong. They are exactly those people. And, I personally don't really have a lot of time for people that earnestly believe to the extent that they were prepared to sit in a hole with a Panzerfaust waiting to be ground down by an enemy tank. It's best not to get to that position, realistically. Anyway, do have a lovely day if you can do. And remember, I'm sure I'm wrong. After all, those alarm bells ringing all over the place are just ones that you can safely ignore. Yes, a whole bunch of, well, morbid stuff, isn't it? As Gramsci probably was wrong about. Do enjoy the symptoms. Enjoy.